all of yours. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley have no Shankly, the fields of our field goal. We are all supporters, and we come from Liverpool.
G'day everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Training Ground. This is the big one. This is a training ground in which Peter the Coach Kofinas, I haven't used that nickname for you, Pete. How does it feel to be called the Coach again? And it's a coach with a K? How's it spelled?
I just Peter's fine at the moment. I think once we get a few more right, then you can start. Yeah, once we get a few more right in a row, then you can call me the Coach again. But look, I'm excited for this one. This one's a bit of pressure too because we've had a good run, haven't we, George, so far?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of, we feel like Liverpool a little bit because it's like a win for us whenever we say something on the show that kind of happens in reality. So we kind of feel like Liverpool a little bit. We're doing well. Maybe we've had a draw. We may have had a draw somewhere in the middle of our predictions, or we're just really hoping that this one is a good one. And like I said before, we're really excited about this show because it is Liverpool against Manchester City over the weekend. Differing fortunes for both sides in the Champions League, which makes this all the more interesting because Liverpool have had a week of rest. Manchester City have had a week of hopefully torment. And yeah, it's the one we've been looking forward to because doesn't everyone just want to know what's going to happen in that game? And that's what we're going to try and do here. As always, this is a pre-recorded show, so apologies if we don't get to you. It is because we're in the past. Although we are known to predict the future, so we are time traveling as in all directions right now. As per Marty McFly and Doc Brown. I say it every single week. But let's get on to it. We like starting a show these days, now that we've got more of a structure. We like starting the show with what we know about the opposition, and this is Manchester City. Something I do know about them, Pete, about Man City is I think they're a decent side. Is that safe to say? They're pretty good.
Well, they have lots of money.
They got money.
That's one thing we can say for sure is that they have lots of money, and without it, they'd be still in Division 2. So yeah,
yeah, they would. Yeah, Division 2 of like the pyramid, which is like Division 3 in actual fact. Yeah. So why don't we get straight stuck into what we know about them and have a look at their possibly their lineup that they might be using because again. They recently lost against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. And we saw them utilized Riyad Mahrez on the right wing and Bernardo Silva as one of their midfielders. It's very interesting the way that they do this because I said to you, it's almost like they're playing a 4-6. And then when they're attacking, those midfielders that are 6 in midfield all turn into strikers. And for me, I mean, it's kind of, Rodri must be having a season and a half, and I think both you and I have been saying that because he seems to be holding that whole midfield with Fernandinho whenever Fernandinho plays almost single-handedly. I believe there's a big hole there. It's just like what you were saying. They're so good on the ball. It doesn't matter if they don't have the physical numbers in midfield because they don't lose the ball enough for them to get punished.
Look, with Manchester City, it's hard to kind of say, like, when you play, a Burnley, for example, or even an Arsenal, you can kind of say this is their set structure. This is what they do. With Manchester City, it's a little bit different. So, yep, they set up as a 4-3-3. That's their basic setup, formation-wise. But I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million more in shows. I don't believe in formations in terms of throughout the match. I think once the match starts, formations are out the window. And now it comes down to player responsibilities and set tasks per player. So, the philosophy within the structure. And what Guardiola, as much as he, being a coach and trying to develop myself, being young as a coach, you've got to look to Guardiola as some form of like inspiration and the way he does things. And he is like a pioneer in the game of football. He really is. Now he's starting to get on my nerves because he's doing a lot of whinging and complaining and all that other kind of stuff. But it's like one thing you got to give him credit for, and it's the way his teams play and have always played, regardless of the budget he's got. The things that they do, like we look at Manchester United, for example, with their budget, and they look like shit every week. So it's like these guys, what he's massive with is manipulating space. So a lot of times when you hear his talks, when he's trying to be, when he's not in a press conference whinging about rotations and money, he's talking a lot about manipulating space on the field, and that's something that we're going to see a lot of during this show. Is the way that he likes to talk about the spaces and try and find the spaces that are on the pitch. With players like De Bruyne pretty much going wherever he wants, so his role is find space.
It's interesting you say manipulation of space, especially given what we just said then, where their formation sometimes looks like a 4-6, and by that I mean 4 defenders and then just a bunch of 6 people just sitting there doing, like, moving and interchanging and doing what they want. So much so that I even said to you, I didn't even believe that Grealish sometimes played in the left center mid position because he finds himself at left wing, and that is manipulation of space. It's almost. They keep the ball that much, and I use that. It's the Rafa Benitez compa thing, where if everyone's close enough together and you're keeping the ball, they can afford to manipulate the space in such a way that they delete the midfield. There's no such thing as it because everyone's so close together. It's almost like and we actually see this in one of our shots, by the way. Liverpool, when they're really good, can also manipulate space in good ways, because we're going to see this in a later shot. Joel Matip sometimes find himself in one of the, Arsene Wenger's famous thing, if you have to be at an angle, when you're getting receiving or passing the ball. Joel Matip actually shows for Curtis Jones in one of our clips, but Man City do that, I think, all over the pitch 24/7 throughout the 90 minutes of every game. And it's just about maybe finding a way to break down that manipulation of space. But I love that idea of manipulation because they're kind of cheating a little bit because they're so dang good at football.
Yeah, look, I think excluding the goalkeeper, of course, I think 3 players have a more structure and discipline. The rest are kind of off you go. And that's that triangle at the back between Diaz, Laporte, and Rodri. I think between those 3, they're kind of a bit more set in the way that the way they have to move and where they hold their positions and so forth. Whereas I think with us, the reason why I love Manchester City games is the contrast of style. The way between the us and them, because they're free flowing, kind of beautiful and pretty, and we're kind of like angry, aggressive, and shove it down your throat kind of thing. And and that's just so good to watch when we do play them. But look, Fabinho and Rodri potentially is the key to both sides in this match. And you're saying before, Rodri's having a good season, George, and he's having a very good season.
So we're seeing here, this is kind of a predicted lineup of sorts. And as we look at this lineup, we'll get you guys to cement that, burn that into your memory as we get onto our screenshots. But the first thing I was going to say was we're kind of expecting something like this. And you're going to see what we mean by how they manipulate space because, it doesn't look like a 4-3-3 when you're looking at their heat maps. And I think that's the thing we're going to focus on the most here is their heat maps. It's kind of weird to look at stats in terms of crossing and this and that because Man City, it's all about where their players are on the pitch and how, like you said, they do manipulate the space. But we're seeing it's a 4-3-3 on paper, but we see a lot of De Bruyne switching with whoever's center forward. We're saying it's going to be Foden, maybe. I don't know. I hope it's Foden. I despite how good Manchester City have been, I have a feeling that we can. I don't know, like. We're always talking about when Lukaku, the big and famous Lukaku, comes up against Liverpool and Van Dijk has him in his pocket. I'm just thinking that I'm hoping that someone like Foden can be put in a pocket a lot easier. He's a lot smaller, right? Yeah. But where you said Raheem Sterling usually likes to play against Liverpool, whether that is left wing or whether it's center forward, we could also see Raheem Sterling as a center forward, Grealish come out on the left wing. That could be a thing as well.
And Foden plays in the middle. Yeah, like the whole.
And then Foden comes back.
This is just a guess. It's just an absolute guess. But this is based off the Chelsea starting 11 and the subs he made against PSG.
And what we definitely expect to see is Jesus coming in on the right. And that's something we're going to talk about later on, especially with the screenshots, is Jesus, despite being a right winger, he's kind of, I think it's a bit of a stealing from Jurgen Klopp there, from Pep Guardiola, in the sense that Jesus is their striker. Is that strange to say? Because what happens is Mo Salah is our striker, always the furthest forward, although that's changed a little bit when they tried to make Mane furthest forward and use Salah a little bit more in. But now that Salah's playing so wide again, he's definitely the furthest forward, allowed to cheat a little bit more. But Jesus, what happens is De Bruyne usually, not usually actually, his heat maps suggest he goes more left. That's just natural for a right footer. But he does find himself out on the right wing. and he likes crossing the ball. And when he does that, Jesus actually tucks in. And that's our danger area, isn't it, Pete? It's that little triangle that gets created on that left center mid, which is why our midfield is going to be so important. But should we look at our screenshots? Having said this, choked on myself there, on my throat. But we'll go into space in behind midfield. And this is something that you're worried about.
Yeah. Well, this was against us in the 1-1 draw. Yeah. So for me, I think this picture is, you go back to the AC Milan game and how we were severely damaged against AC Milan. It was pretty much, the midfield running. And then you look at the Crystal Palace game, as Klopp said, after 3-0 doesn't reflect the score, the game, but I'll take it. If Crystal Palace had better players, they were hurting us by this kind of thing where they were finding spaces behind our midfield. And just go back last week to Brentford. Everyone's accusing Trent of a lot of things, which is again odd. But then again, our fan base of the past couple of years has been more odd than ever. But it's it's overloaded by midfield runners. So unfortunately, regardless how good Van Dijk is, Van Dijk can't mark 3 or 4 people on his own. So you got to look at that as well. So it's something that Brentford did really well and overload a certain area with runners from midfield and fullback and wing and maybe even a striker. So they really, really did overload that area. But actually, all the balls came from our left. So yes, the picture looked bad on our right side with Trent, but it always came down our left. And it's similar to the goal against Porto. I mean, it was irrelevant, but the goal came from our left. So
is it safe to? Yeah, exactly. So it's the left side being beaten, and we actually found. I mean, you had a stat there. We're talking about. We talked about this on the match debate. I mean, it's we're talking about clean sheets and fewer chances conceded, despite there being a few shaky moments, but fewer goals conceded and fewer chances conceded when Tsimikas has been playing, and Andy Robertson, who, by the way, had an incredible game against Porto. Although, where does the cross come from? Does it not come from the right-hand side again? Is it not down his side?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, they score from the Tirami scores the header from our cross coming from the left.
Yeah. So, something to look out for there as we kind of go to. This is something that we're seeing run behind midfield again. This is the game against Southampton where they got a little bit frustrated, but still Man City were trying to probe. And the Southampton game and the PSG game are so important to you and me, Pete, because that's two teams who essentially stopped City from doing any damage to them. But this is, again, I'm not sure who that is that's making that run. Is that Gundogan?
That looks like Bernardo Silva from here because
it's Bernardo Silva.
But that's, again, regardless of who it is, that's the thing. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
I'm making the run. 11, I meant making the run next to Sterling there.
Yeah, I'm saying, but regardless of starting 11, that person who plays in that position has to make that run anyway. And that's what makes Pep's philosophy universal, no matter who plays. That's why, starting 11s for me are irrelevant because they will stay the same in terms of each person has that same role to do in that position. So, and what that does is, if you have a quick look on the further side, it creates that, I think it's Grealish out there on a 1v1 situation that can potentially, be a decoy. So that run can actually be a decoy into the space. Everyone thinks it's going to come that way, and it's actually Grealish 1v1. So, again, excuse me, we have to be just quite careful. I don't know how we're going to manage this. Maybe later on we can touch up on it, which I have a rough idea, but we've got to be super careful of people ghosting behind our midfield and that, because their midfield 3, look how flat that is, and look how and just cruising 2 versus 1 on the centre back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. There you go. That's that little area there. We've got late runners again. This is more in the context of this. I think that's Cancello there who's put that ball in, and this is against Chelsea. But this isn't the one that leads. No, this is just late runners. This doesn't lead to the goal. Although this was the direction they were heading in. It's just before the goal, probably.
But if you have a look, George, that's 3v2.
No, it's not. It's after the goal. Sorry, it's after the goal. Go on.
But if you have a look at the numbers, just look at the numbers there. And look at Jorginho is normally their deepest midfielder. And look what he's doing. He's chasing shadows. So that's 2 late runners versus 2 centre backs, and someone's already in the box as it is. So again, all it takes is a dodgy clearance or a goalkeeper parrying it the wrong way, and it's conceding again. So a constant picture you're going to see from Manchester City, no matter how many, we can pull up 4,000 screenshots or 5. You're going to see this in 80%, 85, 90% of them.
Yeah, and the thing I don't like about, I remember saying this to you, is that actually the Liverpool right now is okay at this. We're not good at scraps in the box. We saw that against Brentford, and we have conceded a lot of scraps this season, and that's a little bit frustrating. Manchester City, I mean, scored a scrappy goal against Chelsea, but Chelsea had 600 players in the box at that stage. So sometimes it's not about physically getting numbers in there. It's just about being decisive about your clearing. One thing I'm worried about with Liverpool is we do like to we like to organize our clearing. So we like to clear it in a specific way. And I think we've gotten a little, especially with Van Dijk in there, I think he doesn't get enough credit, by the way. And who would want to give credit for something like this? But I do, because it's like the opposite. When someone's really classy, you commend them for being dirty. And Van Dijk loves a good clearance. He just goes bang. You know, he played for Southampton, by the way. You know, he's a smart defender.
And Celtic.
And Celtic. So he exactly, when you're at Celtic, he's like, yeah, get the ball in there. Yeah, kick it out in that parking lot. Like, who cares? So, yeah, how's my accent? Jimmy Nicholson or Robbo can tell us. But yeah, we're not afraid to do that. Although, you know, one way we can beat City is, again, that organized clearance with the counter. So we've got to be careful of that. They just got to be switched on. And I feel like Liverpool are more switched on in these types of games. You know, we don't respect those, you know, the lower opposition. Late runner numero cuatros. Is that? I don't know. My Spanish isn't that good. Anyway, here we go. Another late runner.
Yeah, again, but what you see here, which I kind of like this screenshot a bit more than the others, because it actually shows what happens when the runners are making their movement. So if you have a look at Kyle Walker, I've just put a little arrow there for him, because it's very similar to what I started saying that we introduced with Trent rolling in central to protect. If anything does come out, he can keep it or prevent counterattack. So with Kyle Walker moving into the middle, because you'll see, you know, you can't even see the two centre backs, and Lukaku is out there on his own. So okay, yep, they have a numerical advantage already, but just in case, and moving Kyle Walker in centrally prevents that from happening. Now,
and he's quick, quick still.
It's a cheat code, to be fair, how quick he is. But it's like
it's like in FIFA, he's like his foot weekly version of himself. They've just upped him to 99 pace for no reason.
Yeah, and and that's Mane's side, to be fair. But I think also this is the side that we can hurt Manchester City on, and I think we are going to get to that later on in terms of what we can do to hurt them. But again, just I wanted to show that picture because of the organization. He's not completely, you know, Pep is pretty intelligent. He's not always about, you know, forward, because now he needs to protect. Because one thing that Manchester City are vulnerable on is counterattacks, and they hold a very high line. So this is also to try and prevent any sort of counterattacks going their way.
Well, there's also this thing. I mean, I'm going to get really fancy here. Is this going to work? Those famous last words. Ah, yes. There we go. There's a little bit of a possibility there of that's the run you're afraid of as well. Is this
in between the centre backs
coming through? Is the midfielder coming through and not getting tracked? And we've kind of been getting that a little bit. To be fair to us, that's actually been happening more on the wings for us. So hopefully the fact that maybe, I don't know if City prefer this to happen, you know, more centrally, maybe that suits us. I don't know. But it's still something we have to be careful of, because, again, Manchester City do not play a striker. They just play a bunch of midfielders. And so they're used to running beyond. All of them, it's kind of like the thing about Daniel Sturridge, where people saw him playing wing, so they thought he was a winger. No. He's a striker who likes to drift there. So Manchester City have a lot of players who like to drift forward. Doesn't mean that they're strikers. So even when Foden plays there, his starting position's a lot further back, which is what we're going to see. The other thing I just wanted to show you very quickly was, given what we've just seen here about the midfield runs, I want to take a look at Manchester City. So that's their starting lineup against Chelsea. This is the game that they win. We've got De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva there. And this is what I was talking about, the cheating with regards to playing forward and leaving that gap in midfield. And is there an opportunity for us? And we do have a lovely screenshot of that later as to how Liverpool can combat or maybe take advantage of this gap. But if you look in the average positions for Man City, that's De Bruyne there. And that's what you're talking about, the late runs. And I might put that... I'm going to put that little that thing up there for people to see, the danger of midfield runners. The reason I bring this up is because De Bruyne is in the front four there. You know, That's that. If you guys can see that on the those front four, it's like him and Foden or whoever is the striker switch with each other, and that's that. It's the interchange between those two that might create a bit of confusion for our centre backs. This is Bernardo Silva, the right winger, is one of their deepest two players, and that's Rodri. So he must be holding Rodri's hand essentially, and Rodri must be telling him all sorts like what to do. But on the face of it, that should be a weakness for them. They're playing a light, not very combative attacking midfielder in the heart of their midfield. And like we said, that's where they're cheating a bit. They're manipulating the space because they don't get run at that often because they're not losing the ball that often. And so that's what it makes me think. Does Pep change his style for Liverpool, as he always has, by the way? Except when they're on top, he usually changes his system a little bit for us.
Just do us a favor, click on Kyle Walker's heat map. And now go back to Bernardo Silva. You see how Bernardo Silva is in that little space there covering Kyle Walker?
Yeah.
That's where we have to hurt them. We have to be, if it is Bernardo Silva, if it's anybody there, regardless, if it's not Bernardo Silva, it potentially can be, Foden, let's say. We should be attacking those. That's the spaces we should be attacking, which we are going to touch on later in terms of our left side triangle, which finally came to, was fruition, we should say, against Porto. It finally came to life for Porto. And it's been a long time coming since that left side has come to life. So perfect timing, if you ask me. Where they have a really, really, really dominant game down our left against Porto. And hopefully now they can kind of continue that momentum and confidence against this side here, because I think that is a certain area we can definitely damage more so than the left, because I was just about to say their left side, as you can see there, George, stay left.
And there's no midfielder there. I mean, that's now Grealish up there, and then De Bruyne. Yeah. So De Bruyne is helping out Grealish, and he's helping. That's a little triangle there between De Bruyne, Grealish, and Cancello. So, like you said here, but the thing is, what you're saying is that they're going to be playing Grealish in midfield. So, I mean, if we can see, potentially, yeah, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but let's just say it is this little space in here. If I get rid of that, if it's that space just in there, then hopefully on one of these sides, Manchester City, like you said, because Grealish has played there in the past, on one of these sides, there is that attacking midfielder who's kind of, if he sees his fullback, marauding forward, they possibly try and sit in and protect that. And that's what you want. You want to be running at that player. Bernardo Silva, I mean, he's not going to be playing this game, but whoever that is, you can see Mane hopefully tapping the ball past them and hopefully speeding ahead of them. But yeah, the main thing I wanted to show from that is that forward line just here. Look at that straight line, and that's De Bruyne here. So it's they don't really play with a striker, and there's Jesus coming in nice and close. They don't really play with a striker, but all three of them, I would say these three are the three that interchange with the center forward, and I'm hoping our center backs and our defensive line is okay with that. We'll go on to a few of our last screenshots here. So that was midfield. Here we go. This is what I was talking about before. I'm not sure if we do have another late runner. This is the last late runner thing. And this was actually the phenomenon I was talking about with De Bruyne sometimes finding himself out here. He has set up goals against us from here, Pete. He drifts here and is the best deliverer of a ball. It's very Steven Gerrard-esque. I mean, put Trent to one side. Maybe Trent's the best, but maybe if it's not Trent, it's got to be Kevin De Bruyne from here. And a lot of people always say that Kevin De Bruyne is basically, I mean, not right now. He seems to be playing a lot further forward, but he almost was playing like a Trent, like an augmented fullback, right central midfielder. He's playing a little bit further forward now, but this is Jesus coming into the left, and this is De Bruyne drifting out right. And then there's that overload on the back post that we were talking about that we're kind of afraid of. And look, I mean, it's not like Leipzig. This is the Leipzig game. It's not like they haven't tried to stop him here, but he's just so good. I guess he can get that cross away, and we've got to kind of prevent that from happening.
Yeah, and it's not just the two at the back post. It's just the one who's literally standing on his own on the edge of the box. Because if he ends up getting that ball, which he doesn't, he delivers it back post. But let's pretend he just cuts it back for that moment there. Then all of a sudden, one of those centre backs has to shoot out and try and stop him. And if you have a look again, there's 3 versus 1 at the back post. So, and there's not a midfielder in sight And I think that's something that we're probably going to say it 300 more times in this show, but we've got to be super careful of them just getting behind a midfield before it's too late.
Well, this is what I want to go on to, because the next photo we're going to see is going to answer this question a little bit. I don't know if it's how we're going to beat Manchester City, but this is a weakness of theirs. And we're going to show you a couple of photos here before we get on to another one of the screenshots from them. The first thing is this midfield turnout. So this was against Leipzig. And Leipzig scored, what was it, 4 goals or 3 goals against them?
3, yeah, 3.
3. The one player scored all 3 goals. But this is what you think. This is them committing those midfielders into strikers. Like I said, they play with 6 in the middle there. So all 6 are going to be doing something forward, or all 6 are going to be doing something moving backwards. That's a positive for us, because I think it leaves a gap in midfield where it's us versus Rodri, essentially. That player right there that you can see, for me, that is this should be Curtis Jones. I mean, we were promised that Naby Keita could be this player. In the past, this has been Gini Wijnaldum. And remember the game in the Champions League where Wijnaldum plays as our number 6, and he gets the ball here, turns out, and streams forward. And actually, I think his job was to get the ball away to Oxlade-Chamberlain, who eventually gets it to Salah, who scores that counter-attack. It's not just this player's job to turn out and dribble. Sometimes they can also turn out and find someone in an advanced position. And we saw Curtis Jones doing this over the week against Porto. And he doesn't do it enough for me, but this is how I think we can we can punish the manipulation of space from Man City, if that makes sense.
I think, well, I would be starting Firmino this game, because in a game of spaces, because it's going to be like this gigantic chess match on Sunday, or for us, it's Monday for us, actually. Sorry. At 2:30 in the morning, by the way, for those who are listening. So, don't feel sorry for us too much. But it's, I'll be playing Firmino because in a game of spaces, what better play to have to find space than Firmino, who's just come off a double. Clearly, he's had a full week of training, so he's fit enough to start versus City. And I'm not saying he's going to play a full game, George. I'll take him off in the 60th minute and then have fresh, energetic, kind of that fox in the box Jota for the last half of the game, if needed, of course, for whatever reason. But he's also, Jota's an unbelievable presser too. So we're actually quite blessed at the moment between those two, because they complement each other for different moments of matches. But I think I'll be playing Firmino in this moment, because let's say Curtis does get the ball there and turns, because Fabinho's meant to be that player next to him, as you can see there. That's their defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
What better player to try?
This player.
Yes. Yeah. So what better player to try and move Rodri away than Firmino coming in?
Good point.
To potentially have space for Salah to get in behind, or for Mane to exploit that kind of space that Kyle Walker leaves every now and then. But he leaves it on purpose because he knows he's so quick he can catch someone. But I think it's something that we should, I think Klopp, obviously, I think Firmino generally has really good games against Manchester City because of those reasons. And also I'd be starting him because, similar to the Jorginho role at Chelsea, Rodri is the kind of player they look to start the play. And again, what better player to have dropping back and doing a bit of defensive work?
Well, I want to show you guys now. I've just named the folder Curtis. I'm hoping I'm guessing all these all. Yeah, so these will be in order. So this is Curtis receiving the ball against Porto. And I mean, it's almost carbon copy there. There's Fabinho, exactly where you were saying he was going to be. I don't know if you knew what screenshot was going to come out, Pete. It's as if you did know, but there you go. Fabinho's in the position you were saying. But it's Curtis just coming here, and this is what I was talking about before. Is I think that's Joel Matip, who's providing as a triangle option there, and I think Curtis does end up turning out and passing to him eventually. But this is he turns out. But I just want to go, because we can't show videos. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to end up getting so many screenshots like a cartoon. We're just going to put them all together
like a slideshow.
We should do that. We should really do that. We got in trouble for that once before because we used a GIF, and they're just like, no, that's still not allowed. We're like, what? It's a GIF. It was uploaded to tenor.com. Anyway, but this is the most important thing. This is the most important thing here. And this is no slight on Jordan Henderson or even Fabinho for that matter. Both of those players are a little bit more, they're a little bit more physical, and their strengths lie elsewhere. Curtis Jones picks up the ball there and does that. That ability to turn, I think, is important for us. And this is what I'm going to put down the bottom there. Curtis can turn out in defense and beat City press. That's what I think, where he can be, useful for us. Naby Keita, now Gini Wijnaldum did this for us really successfully, and that's why we're kind of missing him a little bit at the moment. That's why that left-hand side is getting a little bit overexposed, because we're still trying to deal with that. Keita should be this player, but he kind of isn't. I always point to his debut. I think it was just his Premier League debut against West Ham, where he performs really well. It's him that provides the ball, that puts the information on the pass that Mane then leads to crossing the ball over for Salah to score, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how it went. But in that game, despite how good Keita was going forward, he was really poor in these positions where Curtis Jones is here. So we've still been missing that player to receive the ball and beat that press. So if Jones can kind of do this sort of thing against City, I think that's where we can take advantage of and punish their manipulation of space. It happens again here. Look at that. He's received the ball, I think, off the goalkeeper, and Fabinho's now made the angle for him. And we were just saying, again, no offense to any of our other players, like Ox or even Fabinho in this position, or Henderson. I think what Curtis has done there is he's had the confidence to just find a forward pass as opposed to playing Matip. The point of this press is for Jones to find Matip. That's why they've left him open. What has Jones done and gone? He's went and found Fabinho there. Again, just getting rid of 3 players all at once. And we know City are playing 6 midfielders. If you get rid of half their midfielders in one go, you're kind of on your way to hopefully hurting them a little bit, making that belly a little bit softer.
And then this is him. There's something that Firmino will be picking up if you have a look again, because that means Mane is a lot higher than Jota there, which again is key.
And I think Jota picks up the ball in that position there. Jota's picked up the ball there before and run. And I think it was our first game of the season, was it not? Where he just keeps running and then gets brought down.
Yeah, he went on that really long run. Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
It was Cantwell brings him down. Jota's good in that position, but we know Firmino's really lovely in that position there when he's on his game. And then this was the most Gini Wijnaldum thing that Curtis Jones did. He receives the ball here, and I think this is Andy Robertson, and this is what we're seeing. This is the maturity of Curtis Jones's game, because he's replaced Robbo's left back position, so he's doing his job really well there. But he's picked up the ball there, and again, it's going to be a slideshow. He's there with a little bit of the futsal. He ends up turning outwards, so he actually he picks up the ball there, goes inward, and then turns back. I wish I had a screenshot of him turning back out. He ends up playing a nice ball down the wing. So it's just beating that press and being able to turn out. I think, like you said, because there is that tendency for City to like to press forward and to use all their midfielders as their attackers, maybe we can beat that, and then we can get one-on-one with their defenders.
Again, I think we should move to, is it the board time to start talking about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we will come to one more screenshot afterwards, but let's go to the board and talk about perhaps ways in which we can. It's going to be that triangle, but I'll come to it when you start to talk about ways that we can beat them. So we go to the board now. We've seen enough about ways in which Manchester City do attack teams, ways in which Manchester City are perhaps a little bit frail, and then we've also seen a way in which Liverpool have been testing out the idea, perhaps of doing something that can influence that can impact Manchester City, which is the turning out of midfield, having that midfielder that can carry the ball and beat maybe 1 or 2 players in a press, and that's in the Curtis Jones style position or player.
Well, the board that we see here is something that, for example, we've come for an attack, it's fallen apart, and let's say Diaz is on the ball now. It's that there again. So we can see, this is what kind of happens. He ghosts. He will ghost into here. He'll try to do what he can to try and, create a space. And I don't know what he got subbed on. You get off. Who subbed him on? Referee. No, referee. So we go, it's something so, and then hopefully Grealish wants to be in these kind of situations here, because if you have a look, it's 2 versus 1 there, and that's something that we don't have, or we shouldn't have. Sorry. So what I will do personally in order to stop them from getting them spaces, now we're trying to flip the script. Now we're trying to say, how would we stop, these guys being so free? I think what we have to try and decide and make a decision on is Fabinho has to pick one. Let's say he goes to Grealish. Then I would be risking. It's a bit risky, but it's the case of having Van Dijk not all the way, but close enough, just in case. And then you go Matip on Foden. So they aren't ghosting there. Then what you've got to just try and is obviously with Jesus being the open free one. I tell you now, I'd rather have the ball kicked into this area here than anywhere in here. So if it's down the line, at least we've got time for Mane and Robbo to kind of, and Curtis to attract backwards. And at the same time, with Henderson coming in protecting, and it will give time for Milner to come back because the ball is on the other side down wide. It's a little bit risky, but it's something that can pay off, because if Van Dijk is close to De Bruyne, they're going to see just his presence alone, and they're going to say, "No, don't want it." And then if they play to Foden, I back Matip enough to deal with Foden. Does that make sense? So, I mean, like I said, it's a little bit risky, but at the same time, once that gets loose, because don't forget, it's hard to do stuff like this on a tactics board that isn't moving, because football is forever moving, and it's a constant movement game, obviously. So the second this happens, there's a split reaction here from Henderson to try and come in and close Rodri. Jota's trying to close him down anyway, and everyone's already moving as it is, which is why I kind of say this quick kind of adjustment is a split-second adjustment, but it should be just enough, hopefully, to delay Diaz on the ball, and then for Jota to get close enough. Or depending what's happening here, can Mane get in there close enough? Because we've kind of suffocated them there.
Well, if you don't mind, what you've just created there is something that I think that you've brought up in one of your screenshots, which is the... we're actually seeing now a screenshot of a Manchester City game of a team successfully kind of playing through them. And this is Southampton against them, creating this little triangle on the left, which is what we saw against Brentford, where, again, we can kind of utilize the presence of Curtis Jones. He's kind of in form at the moment. He's been, 5 goal involvements in 2 games. Is that right?
Yeah, in 2 starts, yeah.
In 2 starts. So when you see that little triangle that's being created there, and City kind of being now forced, because what you're saying there is, when you said it's a game of chess, you're kind of saying to, when you were on that previous board, you're kind of saying to the other team, we're making this decision. Now it's up to you whether you want to cheat and try and find your players, or do you want to come back and actually defend against this? What we're actually seeing in this screenshot is City saying, we're a bit afraid of losing the lead here. We're a bit afraid of you guys scoring. They've actually committed numbers here. That to me looks like Jesus there on the left. So when you were saying, are they going to leave Jesus up? It looks like to me that he's actually come in and trying to help defend. So Liverpool can make that decision early and say, we want to make this triangle, whether it's on the left or on the right. And City are kind of going to have to go, well, we don't like that. You beat us. We're going to come back because we don't trust the overload that you've created. Is that possibly a way that Liverpool can take advantage of City?
100% it is. And I think to take advantage of City, I think you speak of triangles, I think we need to focus down the left a bit more. And I think we kind of need to have Salah on his own, not because, Trent's not there, but I think we need Milner to be a bit more defensive-minded in this game. I think we need Robbo to be the sole attacking kind of outlet in terms of fullbacks. I think Milner can attack, obviously nowhere near as much as Trent does, but I think if he does, we saw against Porter, he delivered a good ball. I mean, the ball got a little more credit than he should have because the goalkeeper was disgusting for that. He should have just literally caught it. I don't know why he left it. But, he got the assist for Mane, and we've seen that Milner can deliver. Milner's a really good passer of the ball when he's got time and space, and he can definitely cross the ball, which we've seen his whole career, by the way, not just at Liverpool.
He's also the slowest ever stepper overer of the ball, and he beats the player. he just gradually like.
That's called experience.
It's inspiring to me because I was like, I mean, if you're talking about styles of attackers, I was always more in the, not saying I am Luis Suarez, but Luis Suarez never tried a trick. I mean, it was always ball manipulation. My feet weren't good enough to do step overs ever. If I ever did a step over, it would be a Milner-esque, like it's gross, I'm sure Suarez can do a step over, but in game, he doesn't want to do it. But Milner does the step over and he beats them. I guess they're mesmerized by the slowness of it. Whoa, we just did that. But yeah, no, he can beat a player. He can put a ball in. He's a midfielder.
Well, look, before we speak on triangles, George, and we'll go back to our one. It's something that on the board that what we're going to see in a few of the screenshots that we saw earlier with kind of De Bruyne rolling in on that left side there, or the right hand side, sorry, and Walker coming in, and this is exactly why they do it. So when we defend 4-3-3, we defend our midfield is quite flat. We don't have it's very flat, so kind of Jota can come in and we only go flat not for any other like negative reason. We go flat because our left and right sided centre midfielders have to come across and help our fullbacks, which we've seen, and obviously we didn't do well enough versus Brentford. But this here, if you have a look at Curtis Jones, he's inside a triangle. Fabinho, he's inside a triangle. It's not good. It's not good because they live for what they call rondos, and this is a rondo special. So here, I think we've got to be a bit more disciplined. Instead of trying to actually try and close the ball down and press in these areas here where they will just pass around you, I think we've got to kind of be a bit more patient and kind of just stand in between the spaces. So if you cut out that line in half,
letting them have the ball in specific areas, just as long as it doesn't get to the point of the rondo.
Well, look, if you cut this line in half, then he's not going to play De Bruyne. He's going to play Walker, which is okay because hopefully Mane or Jota can get close enough for something. And you know what? He may go back here, as they always do, to reset and restart. That's okay. Then we just squeeze up a little bit and close and condense the space, which is, I'd rather that happen every single time instead of them trying to create something here because he can't find De Bruyne here. If he goes back to Walker, Jones has to come in here and close that passing gap there. Because if he comes, let's say, in here, that's okay. Again, Jones is still close enough to try and close that passing lane. So it's all about, I think, when they get to this area here, and instead of being this kind of position where it's, oh, shit, we're in trouble.
It's 3v1. It's training.
We've seen Manchester City destroy teams by doing this, by the way. So I think we just got to be a little bit more patient in these moments. More so this picture here, because this is a picture that we're going to see maybe 15 times on the weekend on either side of the pitch, by the way. Regardless if it's Fernandinho, if it's Grealish and Sterling, it doesn't really matter who. I think we're going to see this picture regardless, and I think we just be a bit more patient in terms of how to stop them. We're talking about how to stop them now in midfield battles. I think we stop the passing lanes.
Can you if you can just give me? Sorry, go on. I was going to say give me access to the board very quickly, but as you go on,
I'm just saying as long as we stop the passing lanes in these kind of moments that we're going to see, I think we're going to have a bit more success. If we're just a bit more patient instead of super pressy in this area. I think our pressing should be done in their half, in the middle. Excuse me. Once they get here, I think we've got to be more patient.
Well, the thing that I want to bring up here very quickly is there's another phenomenon that kind of happens with Manchester City. I'm going to put it up on the screen just so you guys can read it and be reminded of it. It's just it's this thing. And the reason I bring this up with the photo that you've got is because Cancello, he's cool before. Your lines were moving with your players before. That was pretty interesting with the tactics, but with the technology. Cancello here, you guys watching, you guys in viewer land, and for those who have watched Manchester City games, isn't it crazy how often this guy shoots? Pete, this guy, long range shoot. I mean, he scored a goal just recently from long range for Manchester City. If I'm not mistaken. He takes shot.
It was an absolute screamer.
Screamer. Is it against Leipzig? Is it not? Is it Leipzig?
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
So the reason I bring this up is that in this scenario, when Manchester City are playing these triangles, when you said Cancello is one of these players that can be in the triangle to receive it, when you said Walker, let him have the ball, true. With Cancello, there is the danger of him shooting. He's good at it. The thing that a shot does is early on, you can kind of let him do it, but I'm pretty sure Klopp and his side are going to be saying, close that down. And when you get the close down, it's when you get commitment and you get the shape moving. And that's why we are desperate for a long range shooter. That's where Oxlade-Chamberlain was so successful in these Manchester City games, because he was able to, unleash that long range shot. I don't think we're seeing it in this game, or maybe we are. I don't know. Maybe he comes on in the game and offers us that a little bit every week. Pete, how many times am I going to say it? And then I'll claim
You're
that
drunk, George.
I said
You're
it
drunk.
correct.
You're too early to be drunk. Stop.
But Cancello here likes to take a long range shot. The reason I mention that is because, if you guys know, not only has he scored from here, but he's shot against every single side. He's attempted a long range strike. But Cancello is the one that creates the goal against Chelsea. It's the breakthrough moment, because Chelsea are they look quite organized there. Remember, it's a scrap, and Cancello picks up the ball in this position, and he actually does a fake shot, and it sends I think it's Jorginho for the echo. I think he absolutely gets fooled by it, and that's what opens up the space. Let's just pretend that it's Fabinho who gets sent, and then Cancelo's in this position, and then they work it nicely to Jesus, who ends up scoring. And by the way, Jesus has found his way all the way. I don't want him to, he's found his way all the way over here somehow. And that's how they get their goal. The reason I'm bringing this up is like, it doesn't matter sometimes how, structured you are. The danger of that long range shot is not only can the ball possibly go in from the shot, it can bounce anywhere. We know Liverpool have been a little bit susceptible at scraps, so to speak. We haven't conceded, mistake me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've conceded too many opportunities from long range. So that might suit us. No. But Cancello likes shooting. That's the point of this. And I don't know if that presents an opportunity for us, because we do want to look at ways in which we can hurt them. Already, I'm seeing from this picture is that we see Mane and Salah 2-on-2, a little bit there. And then we're seeing the possibility of Jota or Firmino here maybe carrying the ball a little bit. And then, maybe we see some sort of a counterattack that way. But Cancello is a player that likes to shoot, and we've got to be careful of that, is the main point.
Well, I think just moving on to us, I think this is where we hurt them, George. And you talk about earlier, because this is what it will kind of look like when we have the ball in this moment here. I think moving on to the triangle side of things.
Can you move? Are you okay? Can you move on the?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I think if we can have Robbo moving up with the play and just kind of asking Walker a question, do I go Mane? Do I stay here? I think a lot of the time he will choose to go to Mane, because those two have a battle and a half every time we play, which is not too bad, by the way, because Diaz, which means he's on Diaz's blind side now. And so Diaz is worrying about Jota. I think if Curtis can find himself in these kind of positions here, and even if Rodri doesn't go, if Rodri wants to close down here, or if it's De Bruyne on his way back from a transition moment, whatever it is, I think once we get the ball in this area here, I don't think you're going to see Jesus doing the best of work defensively. I think he will try to. I just don't think he's good at it, if that makes sense. I think that's where we can definitely hurt them. So now we're talking about how do we hurt them. I think it's down the left side, because he isn't the best tracker. And we've seen it in games. I've seen it for Brazil. I've seen, that's how he got sent off actually in the Copa America, because he tried to defend and he just did this stupid tackle when he got sent off.
Well, we saw him. We saw him in the Southampton one. He was coming back. So he's trying. He's probably been instructed to be more disciplined there. He doesn't. It doesn't seem to be cheating as much as what you would expect him to be.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I'm actually happy if he does, because I don't respect his defensive ability enough, and not trying to be completely disrespectful, but great, because I think this person on his game, on his day, when he's in form, this poor guy here, man, this poor guy, Robbo will run him back to Brazil if he had to. So
we don't see Robbo rested, by the way, against City. He doesn't even come off. Is that right? I don't think Tsimikas comes. So we've seen Robbo do this, play 3 straight 90-minute matches. But there is a possibility that Tsimikas could be being prepped for this game. I doubt it. But in either scenario, this is what's good about the selection at left back. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just very quickly, if Tsimikas is there, where Robertson is right now, he puts that ball in and Jota can score a header. That's what's fantastic about this, the early delivery. But what's great about Robbo... That's my only
criticism of Robbo, actually, by the way. He doesn't do that enough. What we see from Robbo, he'll get to here and then cross.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If Robbo's the one starting, I don't mind it, because if we're playing the triangles like you're saying there, it's you play Mane, and then Mane plays it into Robertson, who's overlapping, and then Robertson just toe bashes it across the goal, and just chaos in there. Especially, we love Jota and a bit of chaos. So, you know, if it's Firmino, I mean, Firmino's in form. Firmino scores 2 chaotic goals essentially.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of bouncing all in and around. So Liverpool are in the mood for a bit of chaos, for a little bit of a scrap. Having said that, sorry, go on.
No, I'm saying no, keep going. That's fine. Because I'm thinking, because if the area that we're trying to hurt them is here, either we score from a finish, but where the actual damage comes from is that. So even though we're looking at this being the danger area, it's to either create something for like a cutback, a cross, and what we want to see is maybe potentially a Jota into the spaces. If it's something late from Salah, a Hendo, by the way, which we've seen him a bit more freedom in attack in the past few games. I don't know if you've noticed, George. He got his assist as well.
Yeah.
I think
in the De Bruyne role. He's in the De Bruyne role.
So I definitely think, and look, obviously, again, we can't do with the ball. We can't make a move at once, but obviously Cancello will be tracking back and Rodri will be somewhere here. But I think the damage can be done on our left, but I think the goal comes from the right.
Well, if we're going to talk about maybe 3 ways in which we expect Liverpool to score, I think there's a triangle happening on that left wing. If it's Tsimikas in here, if that's going to be Tsimikas in this position here, I think he crosses from where Robertson is right now. If it's Robertson, I think we see him over here. Remember the goal that Salah scores, by the way. And have you got a setup here where it is maybe? Oh, can you put the setup where Manchester City were attacking us with all those triangles?
Oops, sorry. Yep, no problem. Give me 45.
This is the thing. This is the thing that I think is, you know, it's playing with those triangles, and if it's Tsimikas there, it's an early cross. It's Jota header.
You mean that one?
Yeah, this one. The reason why I mentioned this one is, and this is where I like Robbo more than Tsimikas. This is where Robbo's passes are the best. Hey there. When he's there, when we score against Manchester City when we're champions, Salah makes this run, and Robertson he just does this. He does this boot like that, and Salah goes onto it and heads it. Now everyone's obviously a little bit more further back, but it's a full-on break. So if we're in that position and we've kept them at bay there, and especially Cancello and Walker kind of trying to do their things with the triangles, they've got this big gap in the middle. If Jota can get the ball out, I don't know, help us out. If that's not Jota, if it's Firmino, we can break on them. Robertson is really good for us in those breaking situations. I don't think Tsimikas has shown yet, because I think it's that physical advantage that Robertson has. That could be a thing. But the last thing I just wanted to say was, I was watching a lot of our counterattacks, Pete. And I want to show you a counterattack that really, I mean, I'm not sure if we really want to have Walker in there, or, I mean, usually it's going to be let's call it this for now. Okay. And I really do want to have that as Firmino, just for the sake of us, you know, knowing or hopefully having the starting lineup that we want. So why don't we bring Jota off and then bring Firmino on? What I want to see is if we're countering with the ball, what usually happens is, and it's frustrating because you don't want Salah to get the ball here, but Salah usually does that, and Mane ends up in this position. You see whoever's got the ball, even if this is Firmino and then Salah's here, or if Salah's got the ball, we see them crisscrossing. That's when we hurt them on the counter. And I've noticed we haven't been perfect at counters this season. The counter, there was a bit of a counter moment where it's actually Curtis Jones who's part of this movement. No matter what it is, there needs to be a run. Maybe it's Firmino. Firmino does that run. Whatever it is, there has to be a run going towards that side, and it opens up space. We saw Curtis Jones find Mo Salah there. Whatever it is, one of the front three needs to be making a diagonal run. That's what makes that. You can't be countering like this, just three running in a straight line. Mane needs to do that. Firmino needs to do that. Or Firmino needs to do that. Mane needs to do this. Whatever it does, it'll create a space for Salah on this side, or it creates a space for Mane on that side. There needs to be a crisscross in our counterattacks. If we do that, I think we punish them on the counter, which is probably our best chance.
I mean, for me, I think if we're going to try and wrap this up in terms of, talk about how we feel that we can hurt them the most, I think Sorry about that. This is off. So I'm done with the board, by the way, George. You don't have to go back. It's all. We can just go back to us if you need. I think if we're going to make a statement now, I think because I think this game will be high octane, heavy metal, as Klopp calls it. How we're going to win this game, we need to make the best of our moments. I know that sounds like a cop-out, but it's not. Like, I think if we're 1 versus 1 and, for example, with Mane on the ball and it's a chance to go into the box and shoot and he decides to pass sideways to try and give someone else the ball, I think that hurts us. I think if we're in any of our, I think we just got to be super decisive in order to absolutely, because I'm feeling confident about this game, by the way. I think we spoke a lot about them because, they are the favourites to win the league this year, and I don't care what anybody else says. They're the favourites. And we're coming for them. I think the race is between us two. And I think in order to completely rattle them and try and gain an early lead on them, we need to make the best of our moments. And a lot of it will be 1v1 situations or our half chances that we've seen stuff up a lot this year already. A lot of half moments. Jota's had a handful himself. Mane has had more than a fair share. And hopefully Salah doesn't try to chip a one-on-one. So I think
what
those
you say
moments will decide everything.
Yeah, what you say there about very quickly as we wrap up. Yeah, we know we have to get out of here before the hour. But Curtis Jones does a little jink in the box. Sadio Mane in the reverse fixture actually makes his way into the box. We need to make our way into the box, and there needs to be a jink, there needs to be a feint, there needs to be a something. Salah usually does futsal style. I always say this is our front four. This is how they Mane likes he likes step overs. He likes paddock. Salah loves to be in the box, foot on the ball. Firmino likes flicks and turning. Jota is a scrapper. He's an absolute. He's in the box and he'll take advantage of anything. We need to use those strengths and get into the box with those front players and Curtis Jones. So I think the one-on-one battles in the box will be important for us. I think scrapping from a set piece will be important for us, and I think the the flying V style counterattacks, like Mighty Duck style, I think that's something that we can utilize on the counterattack. But that's all the time we have for here on the training ground. It's been a bit longer than what we're usually expecting, because this is a big game and there's a lot of things to look at, especially with the danger that Manchester City provide to us and what they can afford to us. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Of course, this is a pre-recorded show. You can always get all of our content on the Red Sea podcast. Please like the video, send it up the algorithm, and also subscribe to the channel. We've been getting lots of new subscribers, which is great. So thank you guys for supporting us. And hopefully it's a win for the Reds. This will be a huge statement for Liverpool. Very quickly, Pete, you want a prediction for the game?
I'm going to get probably abused for this, but 2-1. Either way.
2-1 either way. I reckon 2-1 to Liverpool. So let's call it there. This has been the Red Sea Down Under. This has been the training ground. Hope you've enjoyed it. And hopefully we see you next week. And we're match debating about a Liverpool win. That sounds good, doesn't it?
I always do anyway.